Hi, this is Machinoni, and here's another volume for History of DC. Today we're going to do the Legion of Superheroes, The Great Darkness Saga. This was originally written by Paul Levitz. Now, I bet you're wondering, Legion of Superheroes, how is that important to the DC history? Considering this is a title that is rebooted basically it's rebooted like every other year or so. And, that's a good point. But during this time period when this book came out, this was probably when, I guess you could say, the Legion of Superheroes were at least at its most consistent, and, I guess you can almost even say at its height in popularity. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Legion of Superheroes is, the futuristic team book for DC. I really don't like their names of the characters because they have names like Lightning Lad, Light Lass, Ultra Boy, Invisible Kid, a lot of childlike names, I guess you can say. And one thing I did like about the Legion is they had such a wide, diverse group of people. It wasn't like the Avengers in that, or where you pretty much took established characters and just threw them into a team book. This was a bunch of nobodies that were thrown into a team book, and somehow they clicked. Their powers were all unique. You had, granted, sometimes they might have duplicated a little bit, but you had people that can do lightning. You can have people that can do matter manipulation, super strength, invulnerability, fighting, shape-shifting, controlling of darkness, fire, all these different things. And then they would have these membership drives every now and then where they would bring in new recruits from all over the galaxy. Now, with this story here, obviously you can see who the main villain is. It's Darkseid. And this was like a really difficult read for me for a couple of different reasons. I kind of got over the artwork pretty quickly. Some of the hairstyles were just god awful. That one was bad. Cosmic Boy, it looks like he doesn't even have any clothes except for that black thing that covers part of his body. And Lightning Lad, he had the worst hair I've seen. It looked like somebody put a bowl over his head and put some scissors to it type thing. But like I said, they still had a lot of unique abilities. So that's what kind of made things interesting. Another thing that made it difficult to read for me was this team always bickered. This whole thing, they're fighting. You had Lightning Lad throwing a temper tantrum because Chameleon Boy ran off on a mission without his approval, and he just quit being leader just like that. Then you had Timberwolf always just wanting to rage on somebody. You had Element Kid or Element Lad or whatever his name was. He seemed like a nice guy until once he got to become the leader of the Legion because Lightning Lad gave it to him. Then he started to become an a-hole. You had Chameleon Boy basically committing treason, running off to do a secret mission because he's the leader of the espionage team, dragging people almost to the death. And Wildfire was another one who was just... Oh, by the way, that's Chameleon Boy right there. And it was just unbearable at times. Let me see if I can get... You guys might remember Mon-El from Superman, because remember he was trapped in the Phantom Zone. He had that poisoning. Let's see here. Here's Lightning Element Lad or Element Kid or whatever his name is over here. You might also remember Brainiac 5, because he's popped in and out a couple times. Other things, and he's like one of the descendants of Brainiac. Here's Timberwolf right there, and let's see if I can get you. Here's Lightning Lad and Wildfire. Wildfire is probably one of my favorite characters. So. But anyways, so you had all that bickering and stuff. So here's the other part that made it rather difficult to read. The first few issues had absolutely nothing to the Darkness Saga. Absolutely nothing. I'm trying to figure it out myself as to why they included some of these chapters. Now, granted, they were great to introduce the characters. You know, I was going, okay, that's asshole number 1, bitch number 2. You know, it was easy like that. But it was just like, I'm like, where's the Darkness Saga? I don't get it. It's not here. And but then eventually you start getting a panel or two, or a page of little, like, something's going on type thing. And so that's what kind of started me going, okay, great, now we're finally getting started. And then once it started going, that's when things were going at full speed, and then you knew something dangerous was happening. Dream Girl had a prophecy earlier on, and she basically was trying to, like, I guess you can say all she was doing is just giving the readers an idea that something dangerous was about to happen. And Dream Girl's power is basically just to look hot and have dreams and warn them of trouble. This is Dream Girl here. Now, anyways. Oh yeah, and we also get treated with really fancy, snazzy uniforms like that. Now, we also do get the introduction of Invisible Kid, which is, let's see if I can get a picture of him. It's this guy right here. And yeah, I mean, as you can tell, his power is pretty self-explanatory. He just turns invisible. Well, anyways, when it finally comes time for the Darkness Saga, basically what's happening is Darkseid is basically, he doesn't even look like Darkseid. He pretty much looks like this. And he sends these servants out, and they're trying to get these artifacts. He gets the artifacts, drains it of energy, and he's like, oh, I've already gotten all what I can for these things. I must spread my darkness, and go. And he starts going to these mages and magic users, and he's stealing their power. Until eventually, he gets to be full hard-on Darkseid type thing. Along the way, there's these servants that they have to fight, and I thought a lot of these fights were kind of lame, just because they teleport in, get their item, teleport right out. Now, I understand if I was the evil boss man, that's what I would do. Why bother staying around and letting them get caught? Eventually, Darkseid's looking for a baby, and Dream Girl has a premonition of this, and that's the baby right there. So her original vision was the Legion was defeated. Well, luckily for us, they survived it, sent Darkseid packing, and they protected the baby. Now, eventually the baby starts growing and growing and growing, and then at a very rapid rate. And when it comes time for the big battle, he turned into, what's his name? The old Highfather from the New Gods. And then from there, he creates Orion type thing, and that's how they're able to push back Darkseid. Now, the overall battle with Darkseid is really, really short. There's not a lot to it, and he kind of just gives up. But when I said that he just gives up, I'm not really explaining things well enough, because I just don't want to go into all the details in case you do decide to read it. But that part was kind of disappointing. But at the other hand, if he didn't give up, this book would be doubled because of what's going to happen during that fight. It would have been extremely long and long-winded. Overall, I mean, I'm glad I got it, just because I've always wanted to read it all. I've only seen bits and pieces of it, so I'm glad that I got it for that reason. But I thought there was going to be more to it than just what this actually was. I was actually hoping that the Darkseid fight would have been bigger, better. Because like eventually, Superman and Supergirl join the fight because they were both honorary members of the Legion. And, you know, technically, while they do have a lot of firepower, it's not like the big guns of like the DC universe. A lot of these guys are just kids. They don't really know how to use their powers effectively, as effectively as they could. Technically, though, I think they would have had enough firepower to actually maybe hold them off, especially because you had Superman and Supergirl. But it was still, like I said, still a little disappointing. They did give you little teasers, like in case you couldn't figure out that it was Darkseid, which was very possible that you couldn't do that, considering you never really got a good idea of his face, and this was pre-internet, so there was no spoilers floating around. But these guys, the servants, would fly around on these contraptions, and if you remember that, that's what the new gods would fly on. So that was your clue that that's Darkseid. And now, granted, with him going darkness, darkness, oh, I must do supreme darkness. Yeah, you can kind of get the idea too that maybe it was Darkseid. But anyways, that's my quick, or maybe not really quick, but that's my rundown on the Legion of Superheroes. Next, this was from Legion of Superheroes 284 to 296, and there was an annual number here too. But anyways, if you're a Darkseid fan, you know, it might be worth it for that. Yeah, just so this way you get another piece of Darkseid history that normally you wouldn't have had. But anyways, if you have any comments or questions, just let me know. Rate the video up or down, let me know what you think, and I'll have more reviews and stuff up later. So until next time.